stop texting like every other man. You know the pattern. You send, "Hey, how's your day?" or a wall of witty lines. She replies once, then slows down, then disappears. Meanwhile, you keep checking your phone, wondering what you said wrong, rewriting messages that all sound the same. It's not that she hates you. It's that your words give her nothing to feel. No tension, no curiosity, no reason to lean in. Here's the shift. Text like a man who leads energy, not like a guy begging for attention. That means fewer words, stronger intent, and messages that make her think about you when you're not on the screen. Messages that spark curiosity, create anticipation, make her feel seen, and keep your frame without chasing, over-explaining, or getting sexual too fast. In this video, I'll give you 7 messages women can't ignore and the psychology behind each one. You'll learn when to use silence, when to tease, and how to make ordinary moments feel personal and magnetic. I'll show you examples you can literally copy, plus the mistakes that kill attraction in seconds. Use these right, and you stop asking for replies. You start earning them. There's a reason the last message works even on women who ghosted you before. When you see it, you'll never text the same way again. It's simple, clean, and brutally effective today. Let's get into it. Number 1. The message that sparks curiosity. Let's be honest, most men text like they're filling out a customer service survey. "Hey, what's up? How was your day?" It's polite, safe, and completely forgettable. Women don't ignore those texts because they're cruel. They ignore them because they don't feel anything. There's no spark, no mystery, no reason to respond. Curiosity is what flips that switch. Curiosity is powerful because it pulls her in without pressure. It's not about convincing her to reply, it's about making her want to know more. When you use curiosity right, you don't chase attention, you create it. Here's a real example. Robert, 54, from Colorado, divorced for 3 years, started texting a woman named Elaine, 52. He liked her energy, but every time he texted something basic, she'd reply short, sometimes hours later. One night, instead of another dry opener, he tried something different. He sent, "You just popped into my head for the weirdest reason. That was it." She replied in 3 minutes, "Oh really? What reason?" Now notice what changed. The text wasn't long or clever, it was incomplete. It left a gap her mind had to fill. That's what psychologists call the curiosity gap. Humans hate unfinished stories. When you leave a small mystery, you invite engagement. The Stoics understood this principle long before modern psychology. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Meaning, tension isn't bad, it's the path. Curiosity builds that tension. When you text something that holds back just enough information, you give her space to lean forward. But here's the key. Your curiosity message must sound natural, not manipulative. Never force it with clickbait-style tricks like, "You won't believe what I just thought about you." That feels fake and needy. The tone should be calm, playful, and grounded, like a man who's in control of himself, not desperate for her reaction. Another version that works. "Something reminded me of you today, still trying to decide if that's a good or bad thing." It's confident light, and it sets a tone of teasing energy without crossing the line. When Robert used that kind of text consistently, Elaine started texting first. She'd ask questions, initiate conversations, even reference his earlier messages days later. Why? Because he shifted the energy. He stopped delivering information and started creating imagination. That's the masculine role in communication, to inspire emotion, not extract validation. When your messages spark curiosity, you make her invest. She starts thinking about you in between replies. She imagines what you'll say next. And once her imagination gets involved, you're no longer just another text on her screen, you're a thought in her head. Here's what you need to remember: curiosity works because it respects both your time and hers. You're not chasing and you're not over-explaining. You're dropping breadcrumbs that lead her mind toward you. Stoicism teaches restraint, the art of saying less and meaning more. Apply that to texting. Never try to fill silence with noise. Let your words breathe. The less you explain, the stronger you sound. So next time you reach for your phone, stop before you type the usual "hey." Ask yourself, does this text open a loop in her mind? If not, rewrite it. Make her wonder before she answers. When you learn to use curiosity, you don't need long messages or fancy lines. You just need timing, tone, and a touch of mystery. That's what keeps her thinking about you long after the screen goes dark. Now, I want you to try this tonight. Send a curiosity message to someone and watch what happens. Then come back and comment, "I spark curiosity." Because once you master this, you'll never be ignored again. Number 2, the text that builds anticipation. If curiosity makes her notice you, anticipation makes her want you. It's the invisible tension that builds when you say just enough and stop. Most men never master this because they hate silence. They fear pauses. They rush to fill every gap with more words, more emojis, more reassurance. But here's the truth: anticipation is born in the pause. When you learn to control timing, tone, and restrain your words, stop chasing attention and start commanding it. You make her wait, but she doesn't feel ignored. She feels drawn in. That's the difference between a man who texts impulsively and a man who leads energy. Anticipation is the emotional bridge between curiosity and desire. It's not about playing hard to get, it's about showing composure, control, and purpose. A Stoic man doesn't rush. He moves with rhythm. Seneca once wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." The same applies here. If you're always available, you become background noise. When you pace yourself, you become a signal, something worth tuning into. Think about the way tension builds in a good story. The author doesn't dump everything at once. He reveals a little, then holds back. That's how you write a text that stays in her mind. Something like, "Remind me to tell you about what happened earlier, it'll make you laugh." You didn't reveal the story, but you gave her something to wonder about. And that wondering is what hooks her attention long after she's put her phone down. Here's what most men get wrong. They confuse consistency with availability. They think if they text fast and often they're showing interest. But consistency isn't speed, it's stability. You can be steady without being predictable. A calm, deliberate rhythm communicates far more attraction than constant checking in. Anticipation also lives in emotional contrast. Sometimes it's not what you say, but when you stop talking. Leaving space allows her to lean in mentally. She starts to anticipate your next move because she can't predict it. And that unpredictability keeps her engaged. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." That's what anticipation feels like, calm strength. You're not chasing or reacting. You're guiding the emotional pace. When she feels your composure, she starts mirroring it. That's when attraction grows deeper, not from excitement, but from emotional tension. A powerful way to build anticipation is through implied intention. You might say, "You'd probably get me in trouble if we kept talking like this." It's not sexual, but it's charged. It says you're confident enough to flirt without begging for attention. You've opened the door just a little, and that's enough to make her wonder what's behind it. Remember, anticipation is about patience and control. You're not trying to entertain her, you're allowing energy to build naturally. When you stop rushing, your silence becomes magnetic. She'll start checking her phone more, replaying your messages in her head, waiting for your next one. But here's what most men never understand. Anticipation doesn't end when you send the text. It continues when you don't. The pause after your message is what creates emotional depth. You're giving her time to feel your absence. And that's what makes your presence powerful. Building anticipation is the difference between a man who reacts and a man who leads. One texts because he needs a response. The other texts because he already knows the effect his words will have. That's your goal, to be intentional, not impulsive. To move with timing, not tension. Now, if you understand this, drop a comment that says, "I lead with patience," because anticipation isn't a trick, it's a reflection of control. And here's the thing, when you truly master that control, something powerful starts to happen. The dynamic between you and her begins to shift in a way most men never experience. It's subtle, quiet, but once it starts, it changes everything. Number 3. How to make her feel remembered. There's one thing that makes a woman stop scrolling, stop doubting, and start feeling something real again. It's when she feels remembered. Not flattered, not chased, but remembered. Because when you make a woman feel remembered, you're saying, "I see you." And that hits deeper than any compliment ever could. Let's be clear, this isn't about texting her paragraphs of how much you've been thinking about her. That kind of energy screams neediness. What works is subtle recognition, the kind that feels natural, grounded, and confident. Take Michael, a 51-year-old contractor from Texas. He'd been casually seeing a woman named Rachel, 49, who pulled away after a few weeks. Instead of sending the classic, "Did I do something wrong?" text, he waited. Then one afternoon, he sent her this: "You'd probably roll your eyes at what I saw today, that's all." Within minutes, she replied. What did you see? Michael's message worked because it was rooted in shared memory. A few weeks earlier, they'd joked about her obsession with overpriced home decor. He saw a ridiculous $400 lamp in a store and thought of her. But here's the key, he didn't explain that in the text. He just triggered her curiosity and connected it to something meaningful they'd shared. That's how you make her feel remembered, not by telling her you miss her, but by reminding her of moments she didn't think you noticed. When a man notices details, a woman feels valued. When he remembers without announcing it, she feels special. It's the difference between saying, "I was thinking about you," and showing it through something real, something specific. The Stoics believed in attention to the present moment, seeing what others overlook. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When your thoughts are calm, focused, and intentional, you begin to see more deeply. And that's what women respond to. Not grand gestures, but genuine presence. A remembered moment signals something powerful. It tells her you weren't distracted when you were with her. You were paying attention. And that level of awareness is rare. It separates men who react from men who understand. But here's where most guys mess it up. They try to use being thoughtful as a tool to win her back. They overdo it. They flood her with nostalgia, trying to recreate something that's already past. That doesn't build attraction, it buries it. What works is restraint. You remind her lightly, indirectly. You create warmth without pressure. Michael didn't follow up right away. He let the energy breathe. When she finally texted back, laughing about the lamp, he ended the exchange simply, "Knew you'd say that." Short, playful, in control. That's masculine, remembering it's not sentimental, it's grounded. You don't cling to the past, but you use it to show awareness. And that's what women crave more than anything, a man who sees them but doesn't need them. When you master this, you shift her focus from wondering whether you still care to realizing that you always had presence. So next time you want to reach out, skip the long messages. Think back to something real, a moment, a phrase, a laugh, and tie your message to that. Let it feel effortless, like it just came to mind. That's what makes it hit differently. If you've ever made someone feel remembered without saying "I miss you," go to the comments and write, "I remember," with presence. Because when a woman feels remembered by a calm, grounded man, she doesn't just recall the moment, she relives the emotion. And when that happens, she starts remembering you. Number 4. The subtle way to stay on her mind. Here's the truth. Most men never understand. You don't stay on a woman's mind by forcing your way in. You stay there by leaving space. Real attraction isn't built through constant contact. It's built through presence, absence, and energy that lingers after you've gone silent. The subtle way to stay on her mind isn't about texting more, it's about feeling like less is more. When you pull back with intention, your energy becomes magnetic. She starts replaying your words, thinking about your tone, remembering your calm. That's how you remain in her thoughts without saying a thing. Most men do the opposite. They try to secure their place in her attention by chasing it. They text every morning, react to every post, or try to remind her they exist. But what they don't realize is that the harder they push, the more invisible they become. You can't stay on someone's mind when you're trying to occupy all their space. Stoic philosophy explains this perfectly. Epictetus said, "If you wish to be loved, love moderation." That applies directly here. Moderation creates mystery. When you're calm, selective, and present only when it matters, you create a sense of depth. She can't quite define it, but she feels it. The Stoic man doesn't disappear to manipulate, he steps back to let gravity do its work. Think about it. When something valuable is always available, it loses its edge. When it's scarce, it becomes unforgettable. So how do you apply this? Through balance. You communicate with clarity, not frequency. You show interest without eagerness. You're polite, you're warm, but you never overextend. When the conversation ends, you don't rush to fill the silence. You let her feel the contrast between her noise and your stillness. That's where attraction quietly grows. There's also another level to this emotional self-control. When you're not impulsively checking your phone, when you can sit comfortably in silence, you project power. That calm doesn't just impress her, it stabilizes her. Because while most men drown in their emotions, you stay centered. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." And that's what women feel from a Stoic man: harmony. You're not fighting for her attention, you're naturally commanding it. Sometimes staying on her mind means doing absolutely nothing, letting her wonder, letting her miss your energy, not your messages. When you stop trying to prove your worth, she starts feeling your value. But remember, this isn't about emotional withdrawal. It's about quiet confidence. It's about moving like a man who has a full life outside of her. Because when you lead with fulfillment, not fear, your energy becomes unforgettable. Now, if you're serious about mastering that kind of emotional control, the kind that makes women respect you and feel drawn to you without you lifting a finger, then consider joining our membership community. Inside, we go deeper into Stoic psychology, emotional detachment, and the masculine communication skills that change everything. You'll get exclusive lessons, private Q&A sessions, and practical exercises that will make this mindset second nature. Because once you learn how to live from calm, not chaos, everything shifts. People feel your steadiness. Women remember your presence long after your words fade. That's the subtle way to stay on her mind, by mastering yourself first. And the next truth we're about to uncover will take that calm power to a level most men never reach. Number 5. The compliment that pulls her closer. Most men use compliments the wrong way. They think a compliment is supposed to make a woman like them. But that's not what it's for. A real compliment doesn't chase validation, it creates connection. And when you do it right, you pull her closer without even trying. Here's the truth. Most compliments women hear are about appearance. You look beautiful. You're stunning. They sound nice, but they're generic. They don't stand out. And more importantly, they don't feel personal. When every guy says the same thing, those words stop meaning anything. The compliment that actually pulls her closer is the one that sees something beyond the obvious. It's not about her looks, it's about her energy, her confidence, her calm. When you acknowledge something that most people don't even notice, she feels seen in a way she didn't expect. Let's make this real. There's a man named David, 56, from Chicago. He's divorced, rebuilding his confidence, and recently started dating a woman named Claire, 53. On their second date, he noticed something subtle every time she laughed. She'd pause before speaking again, almost as if she didn't want to take up too much space. Most men would have ignored it, but David didn't. Later that night, when they were texting, he said, "You know, you have this calm way of talking that makes people slow down when they're with you." She didn't reply for 5 minutes. Then she wrote, "No one's ever said that to me before." That's the moment she felt seen, not for what she looked like, but for who she was. And that kind of compliment hits deeper than any "you're beautiful" ever could. The Stoics believe that our attention reveals our values. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you observe with depth, you show that your mind isn't stuck on the surface. You're not trying to impress, you're trying to understand. That's what makes your words powerful. You're not flattering, you're recognizing. A good compliment also carries masculine energy. It's calm, confident, and brief. You don't over-explain or add emojis. You drop the compliment, then move on. That's what keeps it grounded. If you linger or double down, "I really mean it," it loses strength. Confidence is saying less and meaning more. Another powerful example, instead of "you're funny, try," "you have a sharp sense of humor," it catches people off guard. That sounds like observation, not admiration. It shows attention, not infatuation. And that distinction is everything. Women remember the men who notice, not the ones who perform. But here's the key: you can't fake this. You have to actually see her. You have to listen, pay attention, and stay calm enough to pick up on details. That's what most men miss because they're too focused on trying to win her over. David didn't compliment Claire to get a reaction. He said it because he noticed something genuine. That's why it worked. When your words come from presence, they carry weight. They leave an echo. So next time you want to compliment a woman, stop before you speak. Ask yourself, am I observing or am I trying to impress? Because when you shift from trying to earn attention to simply reflecting what you see, everything changes. Now, if you've ever made someone stop and think with a single sentence, go to the comments and write, "I see what others miss." And remember, when you learn how to give the right kind of compliment, you don't just make her smile. You make her feel connected. And what happens after that is something most men never get to experience. Number 6. The message that makes her feel safe. Every woman may be drawn to attraction, but she stays for one thing: emotional safety. When she feels safe with you, her guard drops. She laughs easier, opens up more, and starts letting you see the side of her that few people ever reach. The message that makes her feel safe isn't long, emotional, or dramatic. It's grounded, calm, and certain. It carries the kind of masculine energy that says, "You can relax here." Safety doesn't come from what you say. It comes from what your words represent. If your energy is all over the place, no message can make her feel stable. But if your tone is centered, if your timing is patient, even the shortest text can carry power. Here's where most men get it wrong. They try to convince a woman to feel comfortable. They text paragraphs about how loyal or trustworthy they are. But trust isn't declared. It's demonstrated through emotional composure. A Stoic man doesn't try to fix her feelings. He creates the space for her to settle into them. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That mastery is exactly what makes a woman feel secure. When she senses you can handle tension, silence, or even her emotional swings without losing your cool, she begins to trust your presence. So what kind of message communicates safety? It's one that's steady, not needy. A text like, "Take your time, I'm not going anywhere," carries reassurance without pressure. It tells her you're confident enough to wait, patient enough to listen, and stable enough not to panic. That's far more powerful than, "Why are you quiet?" or "Did I do something wrong?" Another example might be, "No rush. I know you've got a lot going on. You're giving her space instead of demanding attention. Paradoxically, that space makes her feel more connected to you. Because while most men try to pull her closer, you're letting her breathe. And women always remember the man who didn't suffocate them emotionally. Stoicism teaches that strength isn't about resistance, it's about stillness under pressure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." That balanced grace toward her discipline toward yourself is the essence of masculine calm. It's what builds long-term attraction. When your communication comes from calm, instead of craving, you shift the energy. You're no longer trying to get something from her, you're offering something to her peace, and that peace is addictive. Imagine this dynamic. When she's overwhelmed, every man in her orbit tries to fix her or distract her. But you don't rush, you don't chase, you simply stay grounded. That contrast makes her lean into your energy without even realizing it. It's not about pretending to be emotionless. It's about being emotionally anchored. You can care deeply and still stay composed. You can be understanding without becoming reactive. That's the kind of control that makes her feel safe, not just with you, but around you. So when you text, focus less on impressing her and more on regulating yourself. Your peace is what she feels through the screen. And here's the paradox. When she feels safe with you, attraction doesn't disappear, it deepens. Because safety and desire aren't opposites, they feed each other. A woman who feels secure becomes more feminine, more playful, more open. That's the power of emotional grounding. You don't chase connection, you create it through calm. Now, if you understand what true stability feels like, go to the comments and write, "I lead with calm." Because once you master this, you won't need to talk her into trusting you. She'll feel it before you say a word. Number 7. The text that triggers her desire. Desire isn't about looks, status, or money. It's about energy. The text that triggers a woman's desire doesn't come from clever words, it comes from emotional control. It's not about being sexual, it's about being centered. Desire grows in the space between calm confidence and quiet tension. When a man knows how to use that balance, even a short message can pull her into that emotional space. The right text makes her feel your presence without you needing to say much. It's not what you say, it's how it feels. Let's take an example. John, 58, from Arizona, had been dating Melissa, 55, for a few months. Their chemistry was great in person, but over text things felt flat. She replied slower, used fewer emojis, and conversations fizzled out. He was tempted to be direct and say, "Are you losing interest?" but instead he tried something different. After a few days of space, he sent, "You crossed my mind today. I probably shouldn't say why." Melissa replied in less than 2 minutes, "Now I'm curious, why not?" That message worked because it struck a perfect emotional chord. It hinted at attraction without forcing it. It carried confidence, restraint, and mystery. It wasn't sexual, but it had an undertone of masculine desire. The kind that's controlled, not desperate. This kind of communication mirrors how Stoics approached strength power through composure. Epictetus wrote, "No great thing is created suddenly." That's how desire works. It's built gradually through tension, timing, and restraint. You don't rush it, you let it unfold. The key to triggering desire is emotional precision. You say less, mean more, and let her imagination do the heavy lifting. Because when you describe everything, you remove the mystery. But when you imply something, her mind starts to fill in the blanks, and her emotions follow. A text like, "You have a way of showing up in my head at the wrong moments," works because it's emotionally charged without being explicit. It says, you're affected by her, but you're not controlled by it. You're leading the energy, not chasing it. Notice what John did next. Nothing. He didn't follow up right away. He gave her time to think about it. That's where most men mess up. They send a great message, get a reaction, and then ruin it by over-explaining. The silence after the message is part of the seduction. It leaves space for her imagination to expand. Stoicism teaches discipline of emotion. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." When you apply that to desire, it means you don't try to control her response, you control your delivery. That's the masculine advantage. John later told me Melissa started texting him more after that exchange. Not just casually, her tone changed. She started teasing, asking personal questions, and initiating conversations. What changed wasn't her interest, it was his energy. That's what happens when you text from grounded confidence. You stop trying to get a reaction and start guiding one. So remember, this desire is not built by saying more. It's built by saying the right thing at the right time, in the right tone. Your words are just sparks. Your composure is the fire. If you've ever noticed that your calm energy draws people in without effort, go to the comments and write, "I move with quiet power." Because once you master emotional restraint, you don't have to chase desire. You become the trigger for it. Number 8. The playful message she can't resist. Here's something most men forget. Attraction doesn't always live in deep conversations or serious energy. Sometimes it's born in playfulness. The kind of light teasing banter that makes her smile while thinking, "Who is this guy?" The playful message she can't resist isn't about being funny, it's about being free. You see, playfulness is confidence disguised as humor. It shows that you're relaxed, emotionally balanced, and comfortable in your own skin. And that kind of energy is magnetic, especially for women who are used to men trying too hard. Most men text with tension. They overthink every word, trying to be impressive or avoid mistakes. But that energy kills attraction because it feels forced. Playfulness, on the other hand, flows from a man who doesn't need to prove anything. He's not performing, he's simply enjoying the moment. A Stoic man understands this better than anyone. He knows that detachment doesn't mean being cold, it means being unshaken. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When your thoughts are light, calm, and humorous, your energy communicates joy instead of anxiety, and joy is contagious. The playful message she can't resist has 3 key elements: timing, tone, and restraint. Timing means not forcing it. You don't send a joke when the conversation is serious or emotional. You wait for a natural opening. That sense of timing shows emotional intelligence. Tone means keeping it subtle, teasing without mocking. The best kind of playfulness makes her laugh while making her feel seen. For example, if she says she's having a lazy Sunday, you might text, "So basically you're winning at doing nothing." Impressive. It's light, confident, and just flirty enough. And then comes restraint. You don't overdo it. You let the energy breathe. When you make her laugh, don't chase the moment. End on a high note. Leave space for her to lean in. Most men ruin good chemistry by trying to extend it endlessly, but power lies in knowing when to pause. Playfulness is powerful because it bypasses logic and taps directly into emotion. When you make a woman laugh, you disarm her defenses. You remind her what it feels like to relax around a man. That's something rare, and it's exactly what draws her in. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The same rule applies here. If she teases, you play along. If she tests, you stay light. The man who can stay playful under pressure is the one who's truly in control. You don't need to be a comedian. You just need to be present and relaxed enough to see humor in small things. Playfulness doesn't come from trying, it comes from not trying too hard. When you're calm, your wit sharpens naturally. Here's the truth: playfulness doesn't just make her smile. It builds comfort. It makes her associate you with positive emotion. And long after the conversation ends, she'll remember how you made her feel. So next time you text her, stop overthinking. Loosen your grip. Add a little mischief to your tone. Be the calm storm she didn't expect, grounded but unpredictable. Because when you mix confidence with humor, you become unforgettable. Now, if you know the power of keeping things light, go to the comments and write, "I play with confidence." And remember this, it's not just laughter that keeps her coming back. It's the man who can make her feel both relaxed and intrigued. The next truth we're diving into reveals why that combination is what women crave most and why few men ever master it. Number 9. The calm reply that wins respect. Every man has faced that moment, the text that hits your ego. Maybe she takes hours to reply. Maybe she sounds cold. Maybe she says something that feels dismissive. And your first instinct is to react, to explain, to defend, or to match her tone. But that's exactly what separates average men from men who earn respect. Because the calm reply isn't just about words, it's about control. When a woman tests you, she's not looking for perfection. She's feeling for stability. She wants to know if you'll stay grounded when things get uncomfortable. And the man who keeps his composure earns her respect every time. Let's look at an example. Alan, 53, from Florida, was texting a woman named Jenna, 50. Things were going well until she suddenly texted, "You're hard to read. I can't tell if you even like me." Most men would panic and overcompensate, send paragraphs explaining their feelings, try to reassure her, or ask what's wrong. But Alan paused. He waited 10 minutes, took a breath, then replied simply, "I like you enough to take my time." That one line changed everything. The energy shifted. Jenna replied with a smiley face and said, "Well, that's different." Why? Because calmness creates certainty. When you don't react emotionally, you signal leadership. You show that her mood doesn't control your direction. And women respect men who can hold emotional ground because they feel safe around them. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's the foundation of the calm reply. You don't control what she says, but you control what energy you give back. When you respond calmly, you're not ignoring her emotions, you're guiding them. You're showing emotional maturity, the kind that only comes from inner balance. That's the kind of man women want in their orbit, not someone who reacts, but someone who directs. The key to mastering this is time and tone. Never rush your reply when emotions are high. A pause shows self-respect. It tells her you value peace over validation. Then, when you respond, keep your tone steady, not sarcastic, not defensive, just calm and confident. Alan's message worked not because it was clever, but because it was composed. It was short, honest, and showed patience. That's what women respect: restraint. Here's the paradox. The calmer your energy, the stronger her attraction. Because calm isn't weakness, it's quiet power. It's the opposite of neediness. It's what every woman unconsciously looks for: a man who can feel deeply but act deliberately. And here's something worth remembering: your calm doesn't just affect her, it affects you. Each time you choose stillness over reaction, you strengthen your masculine frame. You train your mind to lead, not follow. So next time you feel triggered, don't type back instantly. Breathe, wait, then respond from control, not emotion. If you've ever held your frame when someone tried to pull you out of it, go to the comments and write, "I lead with composure." Because in a world where everyone reacts, the man who stays calm doesn't just win respect, he becomes unforgettable. Number 10. The Stoic way to stay irresistible. Here's the truth that most men miss: attraction doesn't fade because you get older, or because women change, or because relationships get complicated. It fades when you lose your center. When you stop being grounded, when you trade calm strength for emotional chaos. The Stoic way to stay irresistible isn't about pretending not to care. It's about caring the right way. It's about knowing what's in your control: your words, your tone, your attitude, and letting go of what isn't. That's where real confidence begins. A man who lives by Stoic principles doesn't chase validation. He doesn't need constant attention. His peace doesn't depend on her approval, and that's what keeps her drawn to him. Because women can feel it when a man is internally anchored. He becomes a safe space in a world full of noise. Let's be real, when a man is emotionally reactive, everything about him loses power. He texts impulsively, argues to prove a point, apologizes for things that don't require apology. He's always doing too much. But the Stoic man does the opposite. He moves with intention. He speaks with purpose. He acts with restraint. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's the essence of staying irresistible. You live your philosophy instead of preaching it. You don't need to tell her you're calm, disciplined, and confident. She'll feel it in how you carry yourself, how you respond, how you stay grounded even when things get emotional. The reason Stoicism works so well in attraction is because it creates polarity. Women are emotional by nature. They move through waves of feeling. The Stoic man is the anchor in that storm, not by suppressing emotion, but by mastering it. His calm gives her permission to feel safe in her own emotion. That's not coldness, that's leadership. When you stay unshaken, she doesn't lose interest. She becomes more curious. Because that kind of composure is rare. It's strength without arrogance, warmth without weakness. Here's how you live this. Every day you respond, you don't react. You observe before you act. You hold your boundaries without hostility. You show kindness, but you never abandon your standards. The Stoic man doesn't try to control women. He controls his presence. And that presence naturally commands respect and attraction. Even your silence carries weight when it's grounded in peace. When she doesn't hear from you, she doesn't assume you're upset or insecure. She assumes you're focused, busy, composed. That's what makes you different from every other man she's dealt with. Epictetus said, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things beyond our control." That's the line that defines modern masculinity. Because the more you detach from outcome, the more you become magnetic. You stop trying to get attention and start attracting it effortlessly. So staying irresistible isn't about chasing trends or playing psychological games. It's about being still when others are restless. It's about discipline, not dominance. The Stoic man doesn't compete for attention. He becomes the man who doesn't need it. And that's exactly why he always gets it. Because in a world full of men who can't stop reacting, the one who stays calm, certain, and free will always be the one she can't forget. That's what this video was all about. Understanding how communication, confidence, and calm presence shape real attraction. You've just learned the psychology behind 7 kinds of messages that spark curiosity, build anticipation, and keep you in control of emotional energy. It's not about tricks, and it's not about pretending to be someone else. It's about mastering your energy, using your words with intention, and living like a Stoic man, grounded, calm, and powerful in silence. If you found value in this and want to go deeper to learn how to apply Stoic principles to real relationships, attraction, and masculine growth, consider becoming a channel member. You'll get access to exclusive lessons, in-depth guides, and private community discussions designed to sharpen your mindset and elevate every part of your life. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Every day we drop new videos that help you think clearer, feel stronger, and lead with quiet confidence. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being part of this growing community of Stoic men. Take care, stay calm, and I'll see you tomorrow.